What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 54 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller. For some reason, it feels like it's been a long time since we've done this.
Well, the last one had Steve Gaynor on it, and we filmed that.
That's why. Yeah.
Was that we filmed? No, we filmed it after the live stream has screwed up the entire month.
Yeah.
It feels like we've done 2 months. It feels like it's already
We're
February.
in a time warp.
We are in a time warp.
It is really weird, though. I don't know if we'll ever get back to normal. I think this is normal for the rest of our lives.
This is the new normal? This is how it's going to feel all the time?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I was
like
saying
that.
this to you earlier, but I really liked it. I came in this room today and I was like, Kevin, it's one of those days. And he goes, I think it's been one of those weeks. You know, come to think of it, it's been one of those months. Actually, it's been one of those years. And It's like, wow, that's quite accurate.
We push ourselves too hard because we love doing everything we do.
For all you big, beautiful kids out there. Yeah, coolest dudes. They're doing stuff. I'm back. We're doing stuff. Talking about video games. That is what the Kind of Funny Games cast is. If you want to get it early, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Throw dollars over there and things will happen to you. You get the show early. You can get, if there's a goal, you get Kevin a mic. You already hit that.
Yeah.
We'll
You've probably put a new milestone up by then.
I don't know what it will be. We need to think about that. But it'll be fun.
$30,000 $30,000 a month, we stop. We just stop doing everything.
No.
Let's look at all the haters to give us money, and then we can just retire.
Oh man,
a steady stream of income to not make content.
Hater money is my favorite money.
The internet's better without you.
Pay us to not put up videos on YouTube.
Yeah. You can also go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames to just get the show for free, as it's broken out topic by topic. The week after, you can get it for your money over at patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Today I'm wearing glasses. You may have noticed that.
I did notice.
It's because my contacts, something's wrong with them.
What's wrong with them? They disappear?
Not clear. No, one of them just messed up and my eye felt like it was burning and had an STD.
Whoa.
I was like, shit.
Are you putting lotion or the lotion?
Don't put lotion on
the
lenses.
No,
I've never used contacts. You put them in Lubriderm, right? And then put them in your eyes?
You put them in something, yeah, but not that. I don't know what
saline.
it is. It's not
saline
quite water,
is what it is. It's
but
saline.
It's some other shit.
It's saline, I believe.
Yeah, it's like
saline.
Really expensive. Anyways, so today we're getting back to normal Gamescast. It's also been a while because we had guests, and before that we did the whole looking back at 2015 thing.
Oh, there you go.
And so it's like we've been doing a lot of topics that were just like, you know, lists and stuff like that. This is the normal show. Getting right into it. Topic 1 is, do you need to play a game to have an opinion on it? Now, this is based on a lot of the reactions I saw to the list content that we made over the last couple episodes of the Kind of Funny Gamescast, where we're talking about best games of 2015, what we're looking for in 2016, and all this stuff. And I'm not going to say everybody, but there was a fair amount of comments that were saying like, oh, well, if you haven't played this, you can't have an opinion on that game, or if you haven't beaten the game, whatever. Very similar to the conversation we had before about reviewing games, right?
Sure.
Everyone has their own way to do it, whatever. But I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on if you're allowed to have an opinion on games.
I think so.
Played them.
I don't think it should be set in stone. You know, you hate a game or something to that extent, but I can look at a game that I haven't put, or that I've put no time into, and know if it's for me or not for me, right? Based on like maybe just the genre it is, right? Like, this is a little bit dodgy, I guess, because I guess so probably League, I guess I've never played. I've only seen played and talked to people and seen stuff and da-da-da. I think Dota, Brian Albert let me play with him once and try to teach me. But I know based on my experience with Dota that League isn't for me, right? Like I have an opinion on that game in terms of my opinion being that everything I've read about it, you know, I can tell you that about its fan base, about its impact, about how important it is right now and stuff. I can tell you personally it isn't for me based on not having played it. I'm not going to sit down and play League, I don't think, and suddenly be like, oh, I was totally wrong. I just don't like MOBAs that much. You know what I mean? That's not for me.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, I think there's degrees of it, right? So if someone comes up to you and says, there's a game called X, and you're like, okay, you don't know anything about it. You know the title.
Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii U?
Exactly. Yeah, let's say, well, let's not say Xenoblade Chronicles, but let's say it's just, the game's just got a name, and all you do is, you know the game's name is X, and that's it. Well, you can't really have an opinion at all about it because you just know the game exists, right?
Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, X is a side scroller. And you're like, okay. And they're like, X is a 2D side scroller with pixel art. What's so funny?
I'm sorry.
What?
Kevin looks like a gorilla over there with this book. He's slowly paging through it, but he's not reading it. And he's like turning it on its side and stuff. You're like Coco the monkey over there.
There's no words.
I love that Colin's like, I wouldn't say slowly, quickly broke there, where he's like
Colin
saying something.
knows.
He
I had the
sees,
giggles. I'm
he sees
sorry.
Greg's doing something. He's like, all right,
broke.
fuck this. What, Greg?
I'm sorry. It wasn't on purpose.
Oh, I know. It never is. It never
This is what we do need to get him a curtain. He needs
Yeah.
to be curtained off.
$25,000 goal on Patreon.
There you go.
Yeah.
Are you done?
I didn't mean to do it, Colin. Don't be mad.
So you know the game's called X, and then you know that the game's a side scroll, and you know that's 2D. So now you're like getting down and dirty. And so some people are like, okay, so you can have an opinion on the game at that point in terms of, is it something you're interested in? Is it something you're going to be interested in? Is it something that a MOBA player that only plays MOBAs or someone who really only plays Minecraft or mobile games, are they going to enjoy this game? Probably not. So their opinion will be like, well, I'm not interested in it. It doesn't mean you have to have an opinion on the game itself because then you didn't see it. But someone who's interested in the side scroller might go forward and say, well, X sounds interesting. Like for me, X is clearly going to give it to me. And so I want to see more about it. So I watch a video about it. And then I see that it's like really inspired by something I like Ninja Gaiden on the NES. And so I'm like, okay, like my opinion of this game is actually quite high. And then my opinion is a little bit like more niche now. Now it's getting like kind of nittier and grittier and maybe a little more valuable to someone else that likes side scrollers, but won't truly be useful to someone until I've sat down and played the game. And then once I feel the game out for a stage and I play it, I'm like, oh, I still really like it. Well, then that's more valuable than me just looking at it or me just knowing that it's a side scroller or me just knowing that the game exists. Mm-hmm. And then maybe I play it longer and then maybe I beat it. Well, then like my opinion is pretty much paramount at that point. Mm-hmm. Consistent with everyone else's who's beaten the game because they've seen the entire game. So I guess what I'm saying is you don't have to have this situation where it's all or nothing.
Right.
Like you can have, it's like what we go back to with objectivity versus subjectivity in terms of reviews. There's no such thing as an objective review. That's complete nonsense. But there are objective facts about games, and you could have objective opinions about objective facts about games. I mean, that's kind of the way I see it. So when someone tells me that, oh, this game is like Civilization, well, my opinion about the game, not knowing anything else about it except for that Civilization or maybe seeing a video or whatever, is going to be somewhat high or somewhat optimistic, as opposed to someone saying like, well, this game's more like XCOM, which is a game of strategy. I love turn-based strategy, but but I didn't really like that game. The one, like, I didn't play the old one, but the one that came out on PS3 some years ago. And so that might make me a little more pessimistic about the game. And I think that those are all valid. It's a matter of being honest and open about gauging where your opinion is and like how you're garnering that opinion to make it useful or not useful to someone else. But you shouldn't like hide your own opinions based on, some sort of made up criteria. I do think that the apex of an opinion is having seen the whole thing, just like the apex of an opinion is listening to a whole record or watching a whole movie. I totally agree with that, but I don't think that, because when you look at it, like I play a game sometimes for an hour and I'm like, nah. And that happens often. I hope that happens to everyone, because otherwise, why are you even playing games? You're just playing everything as opposed to playing things that you really love. And I think that's a valid opinion for me to pick up a game and be like, nah, I don't want to play this anymore. Final Fantasy 13 is always a great example of it. I think you can have a valid opinion on that game after 20 hours, even though you don't really see when the game gets good, in quotes, until 40 hours or 35 hours. But that's a valid opinion because you have to spend so much time playing it at that point. I talked about how I reviewed Tales of Exilia 2 after 45 hours, having not beaten it because I've seen enough. And I think that that's a valid opinion, but I've also spent more time than that before I was comfortable reviewing a game. And so I think you just need to know where you sit. It was the same thing with Fallout 4 where I played it for 25 hours and I'm like, there's nothing this game can show me that I haven't seen already except for story. That's it. Like there's nothing this game has for me anymore. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying my opinion on this game is pretty set. I like it. I think it's great. I think I'm a little disappointed in some parts of it. And I think that might be valuable to someone out there, but that might not be valuable to someone who wants an opinion from someone who has seen the whole gamut. So I don't know. So that's my opinion. I know it's a little rambling.
No, it makes sense. No, I like the idea of strata opinion. You know what I mean? And I think what you're talking about makes sense of being open to it. You know what I mean? You're talking about like, when in our game of the year, best of the year or whatever, and we're talking about like, we haven't seen this or that or the other, right? But we're informed enough consumers on most things that we've read or watched a video or whatever from our friends at IGN or GameSpot or whoever, right? And you start pulling together, well, Alexa said this, but then I know Jim Sterling said this, and like you can cobble together an opinion based on the opinions you trust, right? And again, I would present all that if you were asking me about a game that I haven't played. I'd be like, well, I know this person, that person liked it, but this guy didn't. But I usually side with these kind of people, so that's where I go. But obviously, somebody who's played more of it knows more.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a dumb question to begin with because the opinion thing, right? Like, of course you're allowed to have an opinion. Of course you can have an opinion. But I'm really more talking about like what qualifies this thing of opinion, since we are on this side of the camera. I think that there's a different level of standard, right? And what you just said is absolutely correct. Where does that gamut end then? Like, where do you feel it ends in terms of, all right, if you play the game, you play it enough that you understand where it's going, whatever. Do you need to play other games that are similar to be able to compare the two and all of that? Like, where does that line end?
No, because I think this goes to where you can have an opinion about anything you want for any reason. I mean, I don't care. You know, like the thing is that you can have an opinion on a book you never read. You know, fine. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is if people know that your opinion is based on you having not read the book, right? Like that's the biggest difference. A lot I like Ayn Rand, for instance, which is she's a super controversial writer. She's dead now, but she was a super controversial libertarian writer, wrote Atlas Shrugged and whatever. And people come at me a lot because they know I like her and are like, Ayn Rand sucks or blah 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 because she's like, very unsavory to a lot of people. But yeah, I know that most of the people have never read her. You know, I know for a fact, I can go up to them and be like, name the two protagonists of what the book's about, and they'd have no fucking idea.
John and Galt.
John Galt's one of the characters, but he's really not one of these. He's not one of
Oz, right?
They're not going to Oz, no. They're going somewhere, though.
Oh, this is the one where John Galt's trapped on Mars.
Right, he's trapped on Mars. But I just use it as an example of, I could always launch the salvo at these people of, well, I'm almost positive you never read the book. It's like a 1,500-page book, and I'm positive you never read it. But that's fine. What do I care? And so you can just know you don't like Ayn Rand because you don't like her for whatever reason, and that's totally fine. And I'm just using that as an example of, portraying an opinion based on what the value of the opinion is to someone else. That's why I always try to tell people, even though people get mad and they're like, "You don't play an hour or two of games." I'm like, well, I'm just trying to tell you, if you should take me seriously or not in terms of what you're looking for in someone's opinion. Mm-hmm. So I used to do that in my reviews a lot too. I used to really try to tell people I played for this long or I spent this much time with it because I think that that's a valuable opinion. I just beat I tried to only beat games once. And when I play games typically on the hardest difficulty level because I like to, if time allows. But when I'd review games at IGN, I would play them on normal difficulty because I was trying to play them in a state of as least frustration as possible because I know when I play Call of Duty on Veteran, I'm doing it for trophies and it's actually really fucking annoying. So what is I never reviewed Call of Duty, but just as an example, what is Call of Duty like and what is the difference between running through it in 8 hours and running through it in 20? Mm-hmm. And so I think that people just opinions need to be framed in such a way that people have all the information necessary to know if you should take the opinion seriously. So it's not so much, and there's no right answer to that either. Someone might look at me and be like, Colin knows, I know 2D side scrollers really well. I think I know them extremely well. And I can look at a game or just play a game for a little while and tell you if it's mechanically sound or not. But maybe I didn't beat the game or not. But someone out there who knows that might be like, well, that's good enough for me. But someone else out there might be, well, that's not enough. But I have to give them the information to know that or not. And they can see that with my trophies or they can see that with what we talk about. So
yeah, I think the transparency is the most important part. It's like in any relationship, it's communication. You got to be open and honest with what you're doing. And I feel like the more transparent you are with that, so the more you're like, all right, this is my opinion based on XYZ components. I think that all of a sudden, not that the opinion wasn't valid in the first place, but that's more of, it's a fact at that point. You know what I mean? This is how I feel based on this. And that is a statement that is a fact. And I feel like it's interesting when people look at that and they're like, oh, that's wrong. It can't be wrong. It's an opinion, or it's a fact. And it's like, no, it is right because this is how I feel based on this. And looking at a lot of the comments recently, it's crazy to me that people think that we can't have opinions on game X because we haven't played game Y or we haven't beat game X or whatever. And it's like what you were saying earlier about the reading about it and watching videos and doing all that stuff. I don't need to do much of that to know what games aren't for me.
Sure.
And I don't need much in the other way to look and be like, that game's for me. I'm gonna fucking like that.
I mean, it's what all comes back to what we're doing with Kind of Funny. You know what I mean? Where Colin always puts it eloquently that he doesn't want to be up a game's ass anymore. It's the fact that we're not trying to be
very eloquent.
Very eloquently.
I do.
That we're not trying to play everything to say everything. We're playing the games we want to play that we would then talk about. So yeah, when we talk about I think we talked about it in the best of thing, right? Where I'm like, yeah, these are our games, and none of us have played Undertale. Everyone keeps talking about that. I haven't played it yet. Would love to play it eventually. Not being drawn to it right now. You know what I mean? Same with Xenoblade Chronicle X, right? Not the exact same thing because I don't want to play Xenoblade Chronicles. I understand it's awesome. Grimecraft loves it. I read about it stuff.
But see, here's the thing about Xenoblade, for instance. I know you hate that game. And that's when you hate
it.
No, but you would hate it because it's not for you. I know your gaming taste, and so I could literally look at that game and be like, no.
Yeah.
No.
And that's
You know,
why I
like,
said
you
it's
don't-
not the same as
for me.
Undertale.
Yeah,
Undertale
yeah.
is something I would like to play, whereas Xenoblade I look at, I'm like, not my kind of game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Life is Strange is another good example of that. You know, like
Everyone should
going
play that.
into it, it was at a weird point where now you've played and love it, but at that point you hadn't totally played it and finished it and everything. And it's just like, but you just knew that you would like that. And you were right because you know yourself. And people come to you
I know
because
my
you
body.
know
I've
you.
explored it.
And I mean, this is funny, like going back to the relationship shit, like talking about communication, honesty, like the other most important part about a relationship is knowing who you are and knowing what you're putting out there. So it's like, as long as you're genuine to that, it's going to be kind of easy to figure out what you're going to like and what you're going to not. And then the opinion comes on a more, point by point basis of how much do I like it, why, and like all the mechanics and all this stuff, and what don't I like about it, and what could be better, and all that. And that stuff only gets to the point when you are someone that's really hardcore. Like you could talk about Ninja Gaiden forever and like break down all the things you liked and all the things you didn't like. Whereas maybe you couldn't do that about a Call of Duty that you played through and enjoyed very much, but you didn't. Like, you don't know what the fuck the characters' names are, but it doesn't matter because that's not why you like those games.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the way of breaking it down and compartmentalizing things too. I know shooters, so like I like first-person shooters a lot, and it's a weird, it's a thing that surprised a lot of people. That might be like one of my favorite genres is the first-person, like the single-player first-person shooters. I fucking love shooters, and so on a mechanical level, I can tell you all about it. But yeah, on a story-based level, even though Call of Duty stories should intrigue me because they're very Tom Clancy-esque and future history and all that kind of stuff, it's not what I play those games for necessarily. I play them for the mechanics. So I could talk about the mechanics. So it's about compartmentalizing things too. The bigger thing to me is at the end of the day, and I don't want to say this ineloquently because people obviously care about others' opinions. I read columnists I like about sports or politics. I read, there are some certain game writers like Alexa or Jason over at Kotaku, Alexa being a GameSpot, that I really like. I like reading their stuff, especially, with Alexa really kind of carrying the torch that I, try to light at IGN with like long form content and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I never waste time being like, your opinion is wrong, or your opinion sucks. Like at the end of the day, I don't care that much if someone else has another opinion that's different from mine. I actually really don't care at all. And that's like that's the bigger thing is like, we should have a marketplace of ideas and exchange them and talk about them. But at the end of the day, no one's right or wrong. And I often wonder why people get so hung up on someone else's opinion that they're distraught about it, or they have to leave a rude YouTube comment or a rude tweet or whatever. It's like, it's really not like the Earth's still spinning on its axis and everything's totally fine. If someone doesn't agree with something you say, or doesn't have all the information, or you're bothered by a person maybe not having all the information that you think is the prerequisite that they need, similar to the tweets I get about Ayn Rand sometimes. That's why I brought it up, because I'm like, I don't care. You know, like I didn't like, I just don't care. Like I still like it. And I hope everyone has the fortitude to still like things, even if someone disagrees with their opinion. I think everyone agreeing with each other, having the same opinions is super fucking sterile and boring and Orwellian. And I wouldn't want a situation like that ever to arise. In fact, I want like, I think that my opinion on Bloodborne, having played it for 20 hours, is a valuable opinion to people that might not like Dark Souls or Demon Souls like I didn't, or might not have the time to play the game all the way through, or might want an opinion of someone who kind of came around on the type of game, as opposed to an opinion from someone who's a Dark Souls or Demon Souls veteran who played Bloodborne through several times or whatever. They're not really even speaking to the same people I'm speaking to in a way. So I think that there's in the marketplace of ideas, I think there's like room for different verticals of opinion. It's really just important about framing them properly. I would never come on here, and I never have, and I never will, come on here and be like, Tharsis is awesome, and I played it for 40 hours. That's a lie. I played Tharsis very briefly, and I gave you my very brief opinion on it. But if and when I play Tharsis for 40 hours, maybe I'll have a different opinion, and I'll let you know based on the new framing of the opinion. So it's just a kind of a confusing thing to me, because it's like watching a football game or just looking at the box score of the football game. You can still have an opinion on the football game knowing only the statistics of what happened. You know that the quarterback played well. His quarterback rating's a 110. He threw only one pick and he had 4 touchdowns. And this guy lost a couple fumbles when he was rushing, so he probably had a pretty down day. And I don't know. You can frame your own opinions without having ever even seen it. And I don't think that's invaluable, I guess is all I'm saying. But you may want to let someone know that you didn't actually watch it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I mean, that's great. It's a very good summary. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Good.
Good.
Topic 2 comes from Patreon.
Hey.
Michael Wayne says, Colin, Greg, and Tim have stated many times that they're not really fans of online gaming. That's us. Why is this? Do you just hate dealing with lag issues? Is it a consistent gameplay experience problem? Trust me, I know how frustrating online gaming is, and I can understand the allure of dodging the headache altogether. In recent times, I too have thought to myself, you know what? I'm about done with online gaming, even though I'm not entirely sure that's a reasonable thing to say, given where the industry is and where it's going. All my favorite games are from the 90s, and more I feel like the magic that was online gaming a decade or so ago has all but entirely lost its luster. I'm still thoroughly enjoying online co-op stuff, but the player versus player stuff, even though I'm good at it, is always full of inconsistent and migraine-inducing experiences. So it has become a huge turnoff for me. You'd think you'd be all over it with the internet connections you guys get out there. We just got 15 down, 1 up here in Maine just a couple of years ago. It's terrible. Know how long it takes to upload a 250 megabyte YouTube video? About 50 minutes.
Jesus.
So sorry for you. So sorry.
This is no way to live. Get out of Maine.
What part of Maine? I don't believe that that's all of
Lobster
Maine.
Roll Island.
You must live in like Presque Isle or something like that to get. Anyway.
Anyways, I think the online gaming discussion would be a great topic for an episode. You guys mention it often enough, but haven't really gone into detail about your thoughts on it yet. Mm-hmm. I thought this was interesting as well.
It is a good topic.
And I think that we all don't do it for different reasons.
Sure.
I'd like to start with you, Colin.
Well, I think he's totally missed the point of why I'm not into online gaming.
No,
I think,
lag. You hate the lag.
And I think that we're all kind of, maybe not all consistent. I think you guys play online more, especially Greg, way more than I do. I just don't want to. It's what I've said before. I don't play games for these reasons. Now, there are some games that I've definitely enjoyed online. I've often brought up the example of Rainbow Six 3, which I played for hundreds of hours online when I was in college on Xbox, the original Xbox. I fucking love that game. It scratched a specific itch. When The Last of Us came out more recently in 2013, I played it for about 40 or 50 hours online. I was doing it for the trophies because the trophies are fucking obnoxious online. But then I realized that I actually really enjoyed playing it. But there comes a point where when you play a video game against an AI, the difficulty is not necessarily consistent, but it's predictable. So when the difficulty ramps up, you know that it's kind of always going to be the same. And when you want to play a game online in some sort of competitive way, and I'm not saying like professionally, but like you want to have fun by being, decent at it, at least having an even kill death ratio or whatever, you have to stay consistent with it or you're just not going to be very good at it. And we saw this over and over again at IGN when we'd have to review the online portions of the games. And we would do that in what they would call test environments because the game wasn't out yet. And I'd be pretty good at some of these games. And then I'd go back a week later and play them online again and I'd be getting my ass kicked. And that's my own fault. I'm not saying that that's something wrong with the game. It's not. It's to say that if I wanted to play Battlefront, for instance, and actually enjoy myself, I'd have to only play Battlefront for a long period of time because the scaling difficulty is based on the entire community having played the game extensively. So there's just a lack of balance there in terms of what I'm looking for in games. I want to go into a gaming experience and just play at my own pace. I think I'm a pretty good gamer in specific genres, and I like playing those games and challenging myself with those games, and also challenging myself with things that I'm not very good at. But I don't want to like base it based on the way other people play, or having to find other people to play with, or you can deal with technical issues, or the lack of a server population and all those kinds of things. I just play games to be by myself, to have fun by myself, to unwind by myself. I don't want to talk to anyone when I'm playing a game. I don't want to know anyone's with me when I'm playing a game. It's the same when I was playing Borderlands 2 some time ago. I forgot to shut my my matchmaking thing off, so people kept joining my games and I just kept kicking them out, and I felt bad because I'm just like and then I shut it off. But I was like, this is not this. Some people Borderlands is running around with 3 friends. To me, Borderlands is not running around with fucking anyone. And that's the way I want to play it. And I think the big litmus test for me is going to be The Division because there's so much ebb and flow in terms of the way they talk about the game. And they promise on Twitter over and over again. I literally got like scores of people telling me like, oh, they just said that you can play it by yourself and all that kind of stuff. But then they say you will die alone in the trailer. And I'm wondering if you play alone, you'll die alone, or you're gonna die alone. Like, is it like some sort of philosophical thing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Yeah, we'll all die alone. That's true. So
thank you, Division.
So there's certain litmus tests that I'll have to kind of overcome because The Division looks so good to me that I might bend on having played a game online. And I don't think there's a game that I played online to any extent except for getting trophies for like the reason of getting trophies since The Last of Us. I think that was the last game I spent any more than 2 hours online. I played Far Cry 3 online with some IGN fans at the time just to get the trophies. And dabbled with some other online games, but I've never been interested in playing online because that's just not what I'm looking for when I play games. Even when I was a kid and we only had local co-op, or local cooperative or competitive co-op, I wasn't interested in even playing it like that either. Like I want to just be alone. Mm-hmm. So that's that's my stance.
Greg.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's definitely the way I was raised with video games, right? The video games to me are a single player experience. And I feel even when online was coming on strong, you know what I mean? Like, I would go back to the fact of like, when I write a review, when I talk to you, the best friends, when I do all this stuff, and where even the best friends come from, right? The terminology is the fact that when I'm talking about a game, I'm talking about games the way I used to talk to Poe about games in the basement of my house with all my friends, where in my group of friends, I was the gamer. They enjoyed games. They maybe one or two of them had a system that probably wasn't current, you know what I mean? But they didn't love games like I did. So I was that guy. So I grew up isolated in that way, where it was you go to GameStop and or EB, Funkoland, and be blown away to talk to the people there or the attendant there, the clerk there, to talk about games and like express what you read in EGM and try to have these conversations, right? And so even when Poe finally bought a PS2 and brought it home, we bought that SOCOM adapter, right? And we wanted to play SOCOM, and it didn't work out. Obviously, the connection sucked, and this, that, and the other, and it wasn't a fun game for us. And we went back to just playing. We each have our football game, and then come over and do these things or whatever, hang out. You figure I go to college, right? At PlayStation 2. I go to college with my PlayStation 2 in 2001 and stuff, and I missed the train with Xbox. The original Xbox didn't have any money to get one at first, so Halo's becoming this thing over there, and it's not. I have a couple friends in there, but even in college, I was the gamer guy. My best friend in college, Hayes, bought a GameCube right away, and we went and played local stuff. Mm-hmm. But at no point was online becoming a thing where that was. And even when you jump to when 360 and then PlayStation 3 come out, and PlayStation 3 comes out a couple months before I get hired at IGN, I didn't go out of my way to buy either of those because I didn't have Ethernet. I don't even think I had. I might not even had at my first apartment after college internet, period. But I didn't have Ethernet for sure, and I didn't have an HD TV. And so like these things were happening. So by the time I got to IGN, I have all this stuff, I'm ready to go, online multiplayer is the thing, I already feel like I've missed the boat. Yeah. So many people have, Vegas story, Rainbow Six Vegas stories and all this other stuff and and like they had done this, that, and the other, and I'm not playing on Xbox 360, right? Because I didn't own my own Xbox 360, I couldn't afford it. And then nobody's playing on PS3. So when I bring home a PS3, nothing to really play online, let alone it's not something that's normal to me or makes sense to me. And so then as time goes on and it becomes more and more, it's just not something that's there for me. It's not, you know what I mean? Like there are the rare exceptions, right? Like Borderlands is a co-op game for me. You know what I mean? And like that is something, but even then, right? What Borderlands co-op is either when Mike lived here, me and Mike in the living room on 2 TVs, or when for Borderlands, the pre-sequel, Christine and I either yelling down the hall to each other while we're playing on the internet, or me on the second screen in the bedroom playing there, us having a conversation while we play. Mm-hmm. Like that local co-op became more important. And so there's, again, the most notable exception, of course, is DC Universe Online, where, I sink 550 hours, 600 hours into that game or whatever. And a lot of that is with other people. But even then, for me, it calls out all the problems that I don't like about online multiplayer of, all right, well, we need these people to raid. I'm looking for DPS. You're out there screaming for, not even DPS. DPS, you're looking for a tank. You're looking for a healer. You're shouting, because you have a group of friends, but then you need one other person to get in there, right? And then you get in there and somebody disconnects and it's all fucked and you wait around for something to happen, Or I'm the rando and I join a random group and they get mad at how I'm DPSing and I'm not playing. Why am I using this loadout? That's how I want to play. Like, you know what I mean? When I'm playing a single player game, no one's there. Well, why are you doing this and why don't you do this? And you don't know. And I'm like, no, I just want to play this fucking game at my pace. Like you're talking about, I want to experience the way I want to do it. And so then it becomes, there's this other wrinkle to it that Colin already calls out of just like, even when there's something I like online, like, like Killzone 2 is the shooter that I put the most time in online, right? But it was because I went home every night and played online with retail servers, went. And then there was, you take that week break and you come back and you're garbage and everyone's beating the living fuck out of you and it's not fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was like, all right. And Destiny was a similar thing of like, I was enjoying Destiny when it first came out. And then I went away for a weekend or whatever. Everybody was raiding when I got back. I was way behind. People are like, I'll pull you through and all that. It's like, that's not fun. That's not what I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the experience I want. And so what excites me about The Division is the idea of there being this single player content that I'm doing. And then if I want, I can go do it. And I know you can do that with Destiny, but Destiny, I mean, shooters are rare for me to connect with. I like Destiny, but it's a big commitment to get back into. And then it's always, how much time do you have? You know what I mean? Like, when I do jump onto Destiny, I start getting requests from people to play with. It's like, I'm only going to be here for 15 minutes. It's not worth jumping into this, trying to figure out that. I just want to go through and run these missions. I want to go do this one thing. Because I've done it where you jump in and it's like, all this stuff, and I just end up quitting, and you know, real quick. I don't want to do it. Whereas with single player, you never know how long it's going to go.
Yeah, for me, it's a mix of all that stuff. I think the time sink is the biggest thing. Just the fact that I like games to be tight experiences where it's like, all right, I know this is 13 hours, I know this is 8 hours, I know this is 25 hours, whatever it is, or a Final Fantasy more like 40 hours or whatever. Like, I like knowing that, and with these, it's that time never ends.
Yeah,
and to a lot of people, that's awesome. And I will say that I think that the pinnacle of in the enjoyment of a video game is if you have that squad of people and you're all playing that game together, and whatever is your game, it doesn't even need to be one, whether you play Halo and Call of Duty or Battlefront or whatever it is, Destiny and all this stuff, like or League or any of these MOBAs and stuff. Having a team of people that you can rely on, and because I've seen Alfredo do it so many times with all of the first person shooters throughout the years, from Counter-Strike all the way through all the Halos and all that. Like, seeing him play and seeing it work and him doing call outs and stuff and everyone knowing exactly and everyone just being on that same wavelength. And it doesn't even need to be MLG pro gaming, like just competitively playing. And like, whenever you're playing against people that are competitive and it's all good, it's like, man, there's nothing cooler than that. There's nothing better than that. I've never been at that level. Yeah. Like, I'm not good at video games. Never would claim to be good at video games. There's certain things I am good at, and I think that those are the things I've spent the most time online gaming with. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, music games like Amplitude and stuff like that back in the day. DDR on the Xbox had an online mode. That was all just like leaderboard stuff, or there'd just be other skaters around, and at the end of the day it was just a leaderboard, just there happened to be someone else in the thing, or doing like graffiti in Tony Hawk and stuff like that. Like, but that it's simple. I think that's what it comes down to, is you can get good at that, sure, but you don't need other people involved, and you're never going to be that good at it. And if you are, that's weird. You know what I mean? It's like nobody's like really practicing to be the god of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater graffiti. And so that kept it fun for me. But I'm not going to go back to that much. And I think that's where my online gaming ends, is I don't need something that I'm going back to forever, because I don't have that. Like, I don't have forever to give. It's not even so much that I don't have it. I don't wish to spend my time that way.
No, I that's similar with me, right? Like, games for me are like books or TV shows or whatever, where there's a beginning, middle, and an end. You know what I mean? And so, like, I like getting to the credits. Oh, that was fun. Maybe go back and pick something up, but then I like moving on. And I move on so much that is the thing of like, cool, I'm 7 games removed from where I was when I played Destiny. So even doubling back, people talk, it's another language. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's the same thing with DC Universe Online. I'm always talking about, like, I always said, if we weren't working at IGN back in the day and we weren't in this industry and I was just playing that game, that would be the only game I play. But since it isn't, when I double back and I jump in and I'm like, let's check out this new, holy shit, where did they move everything? What is this? What do I need as a CR right now? Okay, where do I get, you know what I mean? It's like, ugh.
Yeah, it's a lot like, for me, to TV seasons, where it's like, I want to know, or anime is actually an even better example. Like, if I know that there is 50 episodes and there's an end, I'm so much more likely to get into it than, it's on even like season 3, which isn't that bad, but there's no end in sight. It's just going to end whenever it ends. It's like, I don't like that. Like, I like knowing that there is thought put into where it's going and all of that. And with online gaming, it's kind of like, what is that? Like, what is the goal? And when there is goals, and this brings me back to like Halo 2, like with the level up system, like level 50, that was a goal that all my friends were trying to get. I knew I could never get that, but seeing them try to get it made me want to play with them, because I was good at capture the flag. I can't shoot for shit, but I can capture that goddamn flag. So it's like, I would play with them and do that. And all of a sudden, then it was fun, because there was something that I was competent at, and we were playing with a bunch of people that are at the same level, and it was fun. And Halo 1 was the same way. I remember trying to make Halo 1 online. Like, when I connected it to my computer and did this whole crazy LAN shit, playing Xbox Halo 1 online. And I had so much fun with that, because the people that were doing that were going through just as much shit as I was trying to get Halo to work through all this fucking technical bullshit. And I think that there's a certain level of like excitement and just achievement that comes with that, of just like, we want to do this. And Smash Bros is the same way. Like, getting Smash Bros to actually work online with Brawl, or even like before using a bunch of emulators and shit. Like, if you were doing that, you were in it to have fun. And that was great. Now with Smash Bros, I love online. Not nearly as much as playing with someone next to me, you know, and like, that will always be true to me, because what you were saying. Like I grew up playing
How
games
you're
this,
raised.
and that's how it is. And also, I like Nintendo games. I like multiplayer Nintendo games. Those are the multiplayer games that I like. I'm decent at them. They're fun. And if I lose, I don't care because it was fun.
Yeah.
You know? And we've been talking about Battlefront a lot. Like I have fun with that. But at the same time, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
Not nearly good at it. And for someone that's been out of it so long, it is just foreign language completely. Like even getting into online gaming, like you need to know a lot. And that's coming from somebody that knows games. But like if you don't play that stuff, you just don't know. That's like talking to someone that doesn't know JRPGs, talking to them about mana. Like they don't know what the fuck that is. You know,
It comes from heaven.
Exactly. Yes, that was good. But yeah, that's why I don't play online games too much. Then I'll jump in here and there, but it'll never be my thing. And I don't get enjoyment from it.
It's still to the point. I mean, the one point I guess I left out is that I still feel like I don't have my friends aren't doing it. You know what I mean? Like when I made Alfredo teach me to be a first-person shooter aficionado for Titanfall, right? Like him and I would play, but like we're not like super bros. You know what I mean? Like, and like Scott Lowe would dip in and dip out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, but none of you guys are, and none of the close circle is. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, why would I? You know?
I mean, I guess that's what I was trying to say with like when you get it all to work, there's that level of achievement. It's like it's the squad. If
Right.
you have a squad and like there was a goal and we're playing this
Right.
every Tuesday or every night or every whatever, it makes it better.
Yeah.
You know, and when you know that you're playing with other, like we would get a squad together, like we're playing Halo 1, Capture the Flag, Blood Gulch, and we're going online to these servers where other people are doing the same thing. That meant that they had a group that they were doing this with. So then it's like, all right, cool. And that's what nowadays, like there's things, I don't know if Game Battle still exists. I think it does. But that's why I think things like League and Dota and all that shit are so successful is that
Sure.
it does that for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It sets the shit up for you.
Yeah.
The stakes are all there. And once you start playing and committing, I understand why people only play those games
Right.
because that's what they want to do. They want to build that community and go from there.
This is one of those reasons I think everything we're talking about describing is why Left 4 Dead works so well with me and why I loved Left 4 Dead. Is because Left 4 Dead levels had a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
It ended. And you didn't have to be the expert. You could totally sit down and if you've played 300 times, if you've played one time, whatever, pick up the Uzi and let's kill everything and we got to get over there and I hear a witch. Oh my God, what's a witch? It didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like every time you jumped into that game, no matter who your group was, usually it was friends because that was the one that my friends who aren't even into shooters or online games would play, right? Because it was cool. You're playing a horror movie or whatever. That one worked. And that's why, like, when we talk about that Friday the 13th game, right, that Cecil involved in, it's like, that sounds like that because it's not, oh my God, it's not Evolve. I need an experienced fucking trapper right now to go out. You know, no. Just get in there and be a dumb counselor.
And I'm going back to what I'm saying. Evolve would be amazing if you had a group that wanted to do that. And I just don't have the want to make that happen. So until something grabs me that way, that's why I don't play online video games. You're getting weird.
How's me
Craig.
coming for you, wiener?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Topic 3. Also from Patreon. This one comes from Christopher Knutson. After subscribing back in July, I decided to go back and watch some of the exclusive content, specifically the JRPG episode. On that episode, Colin states that Ni no Kuni was the best JRPG from the PS3 and 360 generation. This made me consider what JRPGs I thought may be better, and I landed on Lost Odyssey. I believe that this was the best JRPG of that gen, and was overlooked by most gamers, even JRPG players. This leads to my question. What are games that you personally believe to be great, but were heavily overlooked both at the time they came out and now? Love the show. Keep up the good work. First thing that comes to my mind is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
That was the Wii one?
That is the Wii U one.
Okay.
The Wii one, I don't think was overlooked.
Okay.
I think people liked it a lot, and I think that it got, nice reviews, and people overall saw that as a nice return to form for Donkey Kong and all this stuff, because we got a couple weird ones in between with Donkey Kong 64 and all that shit. So getting a nice 2D platformer is great. Even if people wanted Retro to be doing other things, whatever. I enjoyed that game a lot. Tropical Freeze comes out, and it's at a time when no one cared about the Wii U already. Like, it hit that point, and it's like, all right, cool, more Donkey Kong Country. Like, you need to kind of want that to want that. I wanted it. I like Donkey Kong Country. I think it's a great 2D platforming series. And this one, it was one that I'm like, all right, I'll play it when I play it. And I played it like months after it came out, and I was like, oh, fuck, this is good. Like, this is really good. Way better than Returns. And I liked Returns a lot. And it made me feel like I felt playing the original Donkey Kong Country games. And I think that's because so much thought was put into the feel of the game, the look of the game, and the aesthetics of it. And the soundtrack made by David Wise, the same guy that did Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2. And it's what made those games a thing. It's what made them like, it was the glue that held them all together.
Sure.
And I think even Donkey Kong Country 3 kind of missed out on that a bit. But I think that because this game was on Wii U and because it came out at the time that it did, it was by far the most overshadowed Donkey Kong game in a long time. And even more than that, I think that Donkey Kong isn't necessarily one of Nintendo's like heavy hitters. So it's not Mario, it's not Zelda, it's not Metroid. So even for Nintendo users, I think it's overlooked. And I think that's why I want to give that a shout out, because I can talk about a whole bunch of other things, but when a game is a Nintendo game that Nintendo people are overlooking, I think that's a problem.
Sure.
I actually played that Donkey Kong game, and this is a great example. It goes back to the first topic. I only played it for an hour or so at IGN, and I'm formed my opinion that too heavy, too much weight. Didn't like it. Yeah, Lost Odyssey definitely was overlooked. I mean, there was a lot of early Xbox 360 games, JRPGs, when Microsoft was making their kind of Japanese gambit with Infinite Undiscovery and Blue Dragon and a bunch of games that they shouldn't have stranded on Xbox 360, but that's their fault for making that deal with Microsoft. Games that are overlooked. I still think Vanquish is probably one of the major games that's overlooked. This is a platinum third-person shooter. A lot of people ask me, like, what's a third-person shooter that plays better than Metal Gear Solid 5? Vanquish. Vanquish plays better than most games, and I think is a fantastic fucking game. And it's often been said between me and a friend of mine that it should have been a G.I. Joe game. That would have been awesome. It would have been an awesome, like, I fucking love Vanquish. It's such a great game. I think that there are a lot of overlooked kind of digital products too, but I even think like a lot of Housemarque games are overlooked, like in terms of who's playing them. I mean, they have a great reputation in the PlayStation community and hardcore PlayStation community, but their games are like uniformly awesome. They don't make bad games. They don't even make good games. They make really great games. And so I think that any one of their games that isn't being played by millions of people, I think is being criminally underplayed and underrated.
But I mean, you talk about the stuff that's overlooked, anything early PSN. You know what I mean? Like, I stand by how awesome Calling All Cars was. Calling All Cars was so much fun as a local experience, and then even playing online. You know what I mean? But that was like wave one of like right after Super Rub-a-Dub and Championship Sprint came Calling All Cars. You know what I mean? And so like nobody had the system because it was so ridiculously expensive. But it's so much fun. It's so much. That is one of those games that if that comes out right now on PlayStation 4 as a new product, it's gonna not. Don't get me wrong, this isn't to insult Rocket League or anything like that, but it would blow up, not that big, but it would get big. There would be a thing. There would be DLC. There would be support. Yeah. People would be behind it. Whereas this one, it came out and just languished. You know what I mean? But even when the PlayStation Network has its wheels and is going, like not enough people play Shatter. You know what I mean? Come on, Shatter was awesome.
Yeah,
you know
Shatter
what I mean?
was a great
It's one of those games. Every time we talk about it, people are still like, "Oh, right, whatever. That was cool." You know what I mean? I liked The Last Guy a lot. It was a quirky, weird ass game, but it was cool and it was fun. And why not give it a shot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the whole thing with the PSN is like people thought it was such a redheaded stepchild, and PSN was thrown together, not in the best shape back then, but still, it had great games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I like to look at this. Look at this question more through the lens of like really, not really old, but just old games. Because I think that it's always strange to me when people don't. We talk about a lot of the NES or SNES classics, for instance, and we bring up the Nintendo first party stuff. But even in that family of first party games, there are games that are overlooked, like Star Tropics, for instance. Or you look at early SNES games that were overlooked. I think ActRaiser is still one of the most brilliant games ever made, and a lot of people don't. It's a city builder and a side-scrolling action game. It's fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant idea, and there's nothing like it before or since. And they ruined it with ActRaiser 2, but it was such a great. That was an early Enix game. Quintet, I think, made it too. Defunct Japanese developer. So there are games like that, or talking about Japanese role-playing games. I think there are, especially in the PS1 era, which I think is really the golden era of Japanese role-playing games. There's a lot of quirky, weird games like Thousand Arms that people didn't play. Even Wild Arms 2. Wild Arms is a really beloved JRPG, as everyone knows. I love it, and a lot of people do. But that sequel is really good as well. So there's all these little gems hidden in there. But as we know, like as games come out, like some things just get cast aside, and we just don't get to play them. And then the longer time goes on, the more these games just get buried, and you kind of have to rely on the opinions and the kind of the recommendations of others to go back or not go back and play some of these games. But I mean, I can write you a list of games. I mean, the most recent, I think, super criminally overlooked game was probably
Taco Master.
It was probably Spec Ops: The Line. which I think is an amazing third-person shooter, both mechanically and in terms of its story. It's very geopolitical. It's very psychological and fucked up. As I've said before, there are a few games we look at when we play shooters, we're killing other people, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean like non-Americans or whatever. We're just killing like although like when you play Wolfenstein, for instance, you're killing the Nazis, or you're killing in Call of Duty the terrorists or whatever. But in Spec Ops: The Line, like there are times when you're killing American
Civilians.
like CIA agents and soldiers and stuff like you're fighting them, and they're speaking the same vernacular as you are to each other. It's just it's haunting. It's a totally haunting game. I absolutely adore that game. And so I think that's like one of the most criminally overlooked games for its character and setting and story alone, nonetheless its gameplay. But I think that this is a very subjective kind of question, because I think that like what do you base it on? Is it sales or
Buzz,
visibility, or buzz or whatever? I think that it's just as easy to talk about games that there are games I definitely think too many people played. So it's so I think the question obviously goes both ways, but those are the ones that kind of
and the question's hard too, because like what's the difference between overlooked or underrated and all that stuff, and it kind of comes into it, because like a couple that come into my mind weren't necessarily overlooked, but I think there were aspects of them that were. Final Fantasy X-2, I think the battle system in that's great, and a lot of that was a response to Final Fantasy X being so radically different from the Final Fantasy before it, where it was not an active time battle. It was more just like turn-based, like really, really turn-based. And I enjoyed that a lot. But Final Fantasy X-2 really nailed the active time battle. And the whole battle system it had going was probably one of my favorite Final Fantasy, if not my favorite Final Fantasy battle systems ever. It was in a game that had, a story that wasn't exactly any of the other Final Fantasies or whatever, and it had a lot of other things. But the gameplay of it and the actual battle system was super awesome. Crash Team Racing is the best kart racer. It just really is. It's better than Mario Kart, and it's better than Diddy Kong and Little Big Planet and whatever the hell else there is.
Mod Nation Racers, you're saying? You're saying it's better than Mod
I
Nation
am.
Racers?
I'm definitely
I
saying
bet the
that.
load times were better.
But it's great. I mean, that game was super awesome. And to say it's overlooked, I'm not exactly is a true statement, because people really liked it a lot. It sold well and reviewed well and all that stuff.
Sure.
But I think it's overlooked when people look back on that generation and think kart racing, everyone jumps to Mario 64 and the memories they had with that. And I have memories of that too, for sure. But Crash, even then, I was like, this is better. Now I'm a Crash fanboy. But
of course.
the game is good. The game's really good, and the power-up system is good, and the power slide system and all that stuff is good, really good. And
Sleeping Dogs is overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Sleeping Dogs is a great one that not enough people talk about.
And Amalur.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. You're right. Yeah, Kingdoms of Amalur
Two
Reckoning.
Colin reviewed games.
If only you would have given him higher
so
scores.
pretty much Colin. Go on IGN, look at the games Colin.
God,
reviewed.
Amalur was so good. Jesus Christ. Now you got me thinking of that. I was also going to say in line with your Crash one, one that will be dismissed just because I'm Greg Miller, but Ghostbusters, the video game, had no business being as good as it was.
That's
That was
actually a
in
really good point.
Development hell, had all the voices, had a fun story, a bit, walked some very similar territory, but it was fun, and like they actually made being a Ghostbuster for like 8 hours or whatever interesting. If we had to switch it back and fight things differently.
I mean, that was a very interesting time just in terms of licensed games, where they, for a year or two around there, they stopped doing just
Garbage.
cash in garbage, right? And we got Spider-Man 2 and we got a couple like good ones early on, but like there was Batman, the Arkham games, there was the Transformer Cybertron games, and then there was Ghostbusters, and that was like, holy shit, this is like a turning point. And now Batman obviously is what it is now, but I think the Transformers games are overlooked too, because I never thought I'd get a Transformers game that good.
That was good, yeah.
And it was awesome. It was really awesome, really faithful, and especially after the movies, I expected it to be movie bullshit, and it wasn't. It was great. And I remember playing that Ghostbusters game and being thoroughly impressed by it.
Yeah.
The Zelda Oracle games, I also want to give a shout out to.
Yeah, shout out.
And again, not necessarily overlooked.
Yeah,
but
those games sold very well, but they're not games. No, they weren't developed by Nintendo, and people don't talk about them when they talk about, Link's Awakening comes up a lot, which I actually is like one of my least favorite Zelda games, as like the pinnacle of handheld Zelda. And then obviously, to a lesser extent, Minish Cap, or then, the ones on DS, which I also didn't like at all. But I do agree that those games are fucking cool, man, because those games really captured the essence of old Zelda, at a time when Zelda was kind of changing on console. So, Yeah, I totally agree that I'm surprised that people don't bring up Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. Those are fantastic games.
Yeah,
they're old now.
They had
They're
a
like
sense
60 years old.
of just adventure and fun that I think that Zelda I remember originally having, and then now it's just kind of you know what you're getting, you know what the races look like and whatever. But the Oracle games like had the characters were just like quirky and weird and new, and I enjoyed them a lot. And I also like the linking system and all that stuff. I mean, Game Boy was great with all that, for sure. Do you have any more, Greg?
No.
Okay. That topic brought to you by patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Thank you all for supporting us and making this beautiful show happen. It is really, really appreciated. I don't know how long this thing goes on for.
It goes on a while, but he could start it early to end it.
30 seconds.
So we just have to fill 30 seconds while that goes.
It might be longer. You probably should have requested.
Patreon.com/kindoffunnygames.
You should have it. Yeah, you should have it.
Stupid
All right. Well, I'm just going to transition on into the fourth topic. Oh, for the third topic, Downhill Domination on PS2. Which is really good. Moving on to the fourth topic.
Oni.
Oh,
Oni on PS2.
Onimusha 3.
Onimusha 3 sucks.
Colin.
I hate Onimusha 3.
I love Onimusha 3.
I hated it.
Oh, it's so good.
I hated it.
So
I hated
good.
it so much.
So did you prefer 1 or 2 then?
2 was better than 1.
Oh,
But I think that 1 and 2 and 4
And 4.
yeah.
And 4. You're going to motherfucking say 4
Yeah.
is better than 3.
Yeah, oh yeah. 4 is way better than 3. I can't believe that. I still
I
can't
love
believe
all
that
of them.
series is dead. I
Yeah,
still
it's upsetting.
Man, Onimusha, that was really the first awesome game on PS2.
It
Everyone
was.
forgets that. That was the first really fucking awesome PS2 game. There were some good PS2 games before that, but like I really like the bouncer and stuff like that. But Onimusha was fucking awesome. And I can't.
And they fixed the controls in 3, which makes 3 awesome.
3 was bad because of the setting.
3 was awesome because of the setting. And Jean Reno.
Yeah, Jean Reno was in it. I was like, oh my god, this is awful.
Oh, man.
Just awful.
Pros and cons, Colin. All right. This topic is also brought to you by Patreon and the Kind of Funny forums. Go to kindoffunny.com/Gamescast topic to submit your topic for this beautiful show. Just like Zizo did. Zizo says, what games currently announced for the 2016 do you think have no chance of making its release date and will be pushed to next year? Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, Kingdom Hearts. I mean, no, that's not.
No chance. So definitive, not a shot in hell.
Yeah.
Shit.
And then if we can't go there, then
I mean, I
something with a chance.
still see that Horizon could tumble out of this year.
Okay.
I'm not prepared to say I think it will. That's
There's a
one.
chance.
That's a possibility that I
Last
think.
Guardian.
I think a lot of no way. I think
No,
people
you think it's this year?
they
for
have
sure.
to. They have
they
to.
wouldn't
They
have put that
said
date
this
on there.
year.
They
Don't
can't do
fuck
that
around
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah. We'll see. I think it will be, but I don't think that's for sure.
I think they're going to announce the date like not soon, but I think they'll announce the date and it will come out quickly too. Like I don't think they're fucking around anymore. I think the game's probably done. Not like in Gone Gold, but I think the game's probably like being polished.
I mean, we haven't seen anything from it since E3, right?
I think they just have to shit or get off the pot. I think they know that. No, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Not that that's necessarily a bad sign.
That game's not going to get delayed. If that game gets delayed, they are jokers over there with that shit because they can't do that. They wouldn't even announce the date if they. No. Shit, I don't really know. I mean, I don't think Horizon's going to get delayed. A lot of the releases that we're really cognizant of right now are soon are games that have been locked into this date or have been pushed already, so they're going to come out. So you're thinking like games like Deus Ex, Mass Effect, maybe, but I still think Mass Effect will come out this fall. I think they're just not saying anything. They don't have to say anything about it.
Mass Effect could be a good March game, though. You know, like that could.
It could be.
It could slip away, and I don't think that'd be such a bad thing for them.
Yeah, I think that it's a possibility. I just don't. I think that like this past fall was really crowded for a role playing game, and Fallout came out with a lot of resonance, and they just announced it at E3 and released it as we talked about, and the game was like the 3rd best selling game in the United States last year. So I think that having only been on the market for 2.5 months, so I think that Mass Effect can have a similar success and a similar trajectory in terms of announcing it, and doing all of this, and then releasing it in the fall. I think it'll come out this fall, but that was the only game that came to mind where I'm like, maybe.
I could see Gran Turismo getting out of here, not being this year, just based on previous track record.
Yeah.
No pun intended. I'm looking through the list. It's just like a definitive what you think wouldn't happen. Some of these games, I don't even heard of Elder Scroll Legends. I'll say that.
I was going to say that Final Fantasy 15, but I actually do think it's going to come out now.
Yeah. 15 has to, man.
It's time.
It is time. If 15 got delayed until 2017, I would.
It'd be awesome.
No.
It would be so awesome.
It really wouldn't. Like, that's just insulting. Like, it really would be. But who knows? Never say never with that. I'm going to let you keep looking. I'm going to move on.
Just move on. Because, I mean, there's plenty of games in here. But it's like Hot Shots Golf is on here. And I was like, yeah, I hope it comes out. But that seems like
But who
that's
knows?
the kind of fucking game that they just like all of a sudden, like in April, be like, oh, it's out in 2 weeks. You're like, oh, great.
You know what?
Recore is on this list for 2016. I don't think Recore is going to make it.
Zelda, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They have to. They have to put it out this year. That doesn't mean they will.
Yeah.
You know?
X is going to give it to you.
Yeah. All right. KL3549. I wonder if he wanted that username or she wanted that username or if they're just like, fuck it.
Somebody's already got Kale?
Yeah. Playing through Final Fantasy VII PC port on the PS4 has got me thinking, what scenes / towns, etc. are you looking forward to seeing the most and how they're handled in the upcoming remake? I, for one, am really interested in seeing the Temple of the Ancients and the City of the Ancients events will be portrayed. Kyle from Regina.
I mean, it's contrived, but Midgar is the one they really have to nail. And I think, maybe Costa del Sol or something like that, or the Gold Saucer. But but Midgar is the ominous capital city, and I think that they really have to nail that. I mean, that's what I'm most interested in. We've seen a little bit of it, but I want to, I remember still a very seminal moment in my gaming life was spending so much time in Midgar, and when you don't really know what the fuck's going on in Final Fantasy VII, we didn't, I had the internet in 1997, but I wasn't like reading much about it and stuff like that. The game takes so long to get out of Midgar that you think you're never gonna fucking leave. And I remember that moment of leaving and being on the world map for the first time. This has to be like 10 or 15 hours into the game or something like that in my mind. I don't know if that's true or not, but and I remember leaving this kind of big circular city behind, and I'm interested to see like what that looks like. I don't know. It's I'm interested to see what the whole game looks like. I'm also interested to see when it's actually going to come out. Probably never. But we'll see. Yeah.
That's true. I'm really interested in Cosmo Canyon because that was one of the moments in the game that I was really like impressed by the look of it and the just kind of scope of it, and like the big telescope and all that stuff and the music and all of it. It felt different than the rest of the game, and I'm really excited to see what they do with the PS4 and all that shit. And also just the town of Nibelheim. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Not necessarily.
Is that where you meet Sid? Right?
Schumann?
No, isn't that the town?
Or is Nibelheim the one
that gets burned?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
How to get burned?
The one that's also in isn't it in Crisis Core?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So I'm interested in that. Not so much like the burning scene and all that stuff, because we've seen what that would look like in Evan Trollin and like bits and pieces of CG stuff. But I want to see like the town, because that town had a real distinct look to it in terms of everything was really kind of old looking. And like there was a lot of buildings you can go into and kind of piece together story elements and like read, notes left on people's tables and like look in drawers and shit. And that would be interesting to me of what that looks like in a modern landscape.
Yeah, there are characters I want to see too, like and encounters that I want to see, like Yuffie or Yuffie, meaning Yuffie or Yuffie. I always call her Yuffie. I think it is pronounced Yuffie though. When
you called her Yuffie?
When we didn't know how anything was pronounced.
That's so funny. I never even heard anyone say that, but that makes sense.
But seeing her, meeting her randomly in the woods, I wanted to see like how these encounters go down, and Vincent in the old mansion as well.
Yeah. I think they're going to be part of the story now.
That would be fucking lame as hell.
I think it's going to
well, they were supposed to be part of the story. They were thrown in, I think, like they didn't, the game got too ambitious when they were developing. I was just reading about that recently. I actually didn't know much about the development of the game until recently. I want to see that, but I also want to see like what the Turks look like and specific, because I loved Rufus and the Turks a lot when I was a kid. They're
cool.
Yeah, I remember
they were made to be cool.
I remember in 8th grade in like 98, I bid on a poster, like a Japanese poster of them on eBay, and I didn't win, and I was very disappointed. Like just that, not even. I mean, some of the core characters like Kate Sith and Sid.
My boy Red 13.
Yeah, Red 13, and I want to see how they're all rendered and what they look like, because it seems like they're doing. Cloud looks a little weird to me, but I like the way Barrett looks. And Tifa, you see her a little bit, I think, right?
No, you haven't.
Or
seen
Eris, you see, right? You see Eris, right, with the flowers. Okay, not Tifa.
Yeah.
So I think that 2 out of 3 is not bad. But remember, the game's the most ambitious video game of all time, apparently. So, they're going to need to make it into 17 parts, and it's going to take 5 years to release them all. But I'm being facetious, by the way. It's a completely lame excuse. But I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see all of it because I did play it for a little while on PS4. I thought I was going to get more drawn into it than I did, or was. But it did bring back a lot of feels for me.
Mm-hmm. Feels are good.
Having not played
They
it
know that.
in a long time.
Yeah.
There's something very nostalgic about that game. There's something very special and important about Final Fantasy VII. They better not fuck this up.
Also, the motorcycle chase. The idea of playing that, I think, would be really fucking awesome. Wout B says, I'm currently really enjoying Fallout 4. My question to you guys is, do you think the Fallout 4 season pass will be any good and worth buying? Love you guys. Keep up the great work. Greetings from the Netherlands.
Oi! I do. I think it'll be worth it. I enjoyed. I'm with him. I platinum Fallout 4. I had a great time with Fallout 4. I'd love more Fallout 4. I'm anxious for more content to jump into and go and have more things to go level up and go and do. So yeah, but based on track record with Fallout 3, I like the Fallout 3 DLC.
Yeah,
even the ones that
Fallout 3.
weren't the highest of the highs, I enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm what I'm most interested in, and I said this pre-release when we were just kind of hypothetically talking about hypothetical DLC, was Point Lookout was so good. It's probably like my favorite piece of DLC ever, and it's because they just made a new map. And it was in Maryland in the swamps, and it was fucking weird. And I want to see like what if they make a little map or maybe a couple of new maps of areas surrounding Boston, because it would be cool to go to New Hampshire or Maine or even Canada. Like I've said that in the past, like they're in Boston. That's quite far from Canada, but not that far from Ontario and Quebec. And it would be cool to see, or upstate New York, like what's going on in all these places. I think it would be a lot of fun to see that, or God forbid, New York City. But I think you'd leave that for a full game.
Yeah. Fly Eagles Fly 815 says, what are some underappreciated features of gaming? For example, Star Wars Battlefront has some of the best sound I've ever heard in a game. The effects of the music really make you feel like you're in a real Star Wars battle. However, sound's one of those things that I never hear a game getting praised for. Are there any other parts or features of games that you feel get similar treatment?
Score. I mean, well, that sound, I guess, the same way.
Yeah.
The audio part of it does get a bad rap. Not a bad rap, but it's ignored.
Yeah.
Especially when you go and talk to developers. I'll never forget when we went up to see, I got a tour of Sucker Punch when they showed us Second Son stuff for the first time. And they went in like, here's how the audio works. It's not canned. It's all, in-game natural. So they were in the woods, like, we went and recorded it hitting leaves, and they went over and like, here it is hitting a canvas umbrella because there's a canvas, you know what I mean? They did all that stuff, but nobody ever sat there and was like, the ambient noise of Second Son is amazing.
Yeah. And that stuff would never get called out, but I do think that when they nail it like that, it does add to the overall experience.
Right.
And like, I'm someone that notices that. Like, those are the things that I look for. But again, I wouldn't pick them out bit by bit. It's more of like
when you talk about an experience and everything else, right? And when they're not there, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
I think, one of the big takeaways we took away from the animated series pilot on kindafunny.com, right, is the fact that people are like, there should have been music throughout. You know what I mean? This time, you're like, oh, that's a good point for us. We didn't think that, or I wasn't even part of the conversation.
Well, it was less music. It was more like sound effects and stuff.
Right.
It was
ambient noise.
A little empty. Yeah. Music can be a little distracting at times. But
I didn't mean like, well, should have been gone. Like the blaring
Taylor
the whole
Swift
time.
I think, and this is less like an overall thing, but whenever I see games do something that I've never seen before, I'm really impressed by it. And this doesn't really answer that question, but like Metroid Prime, when you see the
reflection, that's
it's those moments, and like when a game does that for the first time, makes you go, whoa.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool. And other things like that are, when I first played Uncharted back in the day, seeing him get in the water and get out, and then his pants were wet, and he left wet footprints. It was like, oh my God,
right?
That's crazy. That's possible. That's in this video game. And Final Fantasy 13 had a moment like that for me, where their walk animations looked so good, where I was like, wow, they really nailed like the sway of a butt, And I remember just walking my character back and forth and being like,
look at that
shit.
ace.
And like moving the camera around. It's like anytime a game breaks me from the experience because I want to enjoy a technical aspect for it, I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. One weird and not thought of too often. One that's somewhat obvious. One is interface and menu. Like, I feel like there are some games that just understand that volume's a great example. So there are going to be times when you want to go to reset a level or go back to a checkpoint, and it should just be like muscle memory. Like start down X, start up X. Little things like that. Don't make me go into these deep menus. But even if you just need to navigate a menu cleanly, I invert my controls. Sometimes that's in game. Sometimes that's in control.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, why is it so hard to like make it coherent for people like me? I know it's like only 10% of us or whatever. So I appreciate little things like that, like easy to navigate menus, and you could parlay that all the way to role-playing games with deep systems and stuff like that. I think, actually I found Fallout 4's menu to be super like cumbersome, like unnecessarily cumbersome. I think because I think the Pip-Boy is like this accessory that's part of the game that's important to the story and all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, can you just fucking make it like a little cleaner,
Real quick sidebar.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Was the volume good or bad in the interface part?
Oh, good.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
So that's one of the things I think about, just random things that we might overlook, similar to maybe ambient sound and score.
That's really good.
Less obvious thing is load times. There are games that load so quickly, and I have no idea how the fuck they did it. And then there are games with load times where I'm like, what are you even loading?
Mm-hmm.
And I have very little patience for long load times. Bloodborne was one of those games where I'm like, this is insane. And I know that they patched it and it's fixed now, but when it came out, it was insane. You could go like literally make a sandwich. Like I know people say that, but you could like literally just leave, walk and take everything out, get the mayonnaise, put the bread on the plate, break up the lettuce, put on the meat, and walk back, and it would still not be loaded. And in a game where you die over and over and over again, I'm like, this is fucking nuts. But it was a very clever, although probably unintentional way for you to make, to not be, to be a little more cautious. So I like games that treat players with a little more respect by having better, streaming capabilities. And by that, I don't mean you're streaming the game. I mean the game's streaming, loading,
right.
things in the future that you need, or clever loading, things that hide loading. Like not so clever was like the Mass Effect elevators. But more clever might be Fallout 4's ability to kind of examine enemy models and weapon models and read things, whatever. It's not like the best thing in the world, but at least it masks the loading time.
I always liked Uncharted and God of War when you like go through like the cracks, and now everybody does it. Tomb Raider. I mean, everyone does it, but I remember when that first started, you were like, "Oh, what a smart way not to throw up a loading screen or remind me that I'm playing a video game." Right. Another one it's gonna sound weird, but stick with me. I think controls don't get enough credit sometimes. Bad controls get called out all the time. It's like, oh. And why did they put the button? Why did they assign this button to do that and da da da? But I think it's rare that you're like, when it's natural and it just works and it works exactly the way you expect it. It's natural and you expect it, so you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas like, damn, they nailed how this should feel and how this, jump in and do this.
Definitely. Last question comes from Innocence. Hey guys, my topic is simple. I've noticed that the games I'm playing are beginning to have multiple endings depending on the player's choices. A few examples are Fallout 4, Bloodborne, The Witcher 3, GTA 5, so on. My question is, are multiple endings in games a good thing? Are they worth replaying the entire game numerous times? Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Yes, they're a good thing. And I don't think they're necessarily worth going back and replaying a different way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I think like for Fallout's a great example, right? Like Fallout, you just make a save. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're about to make a choice. It pops up. It's like, once you make this, you can't go back. Okay, cool. No, jump out, save, and go back and do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way to...
I think that's the key thing is I feel like the game needs to tell me. Like, I need to know that there's multiple endings and that there's choices that change that.
Yeah.
Back in the day with strategy guides, that kind of like answered that for you.
Right.
You would at least look ahead and be like, all right, what do I need to know? Or like you were talking about with Platinums, you like to look at your trophy list and be like, all right, well, how am I going about this?
Optimize.
It's called the roadmap in trophy hunting.
And that's good. I think that roadmaps should be more of a thing that the game tells us instead of us having to look for them. But I think that even just goes to just let us know there are multiple endings and that your choices do get you different things. Because even a couple gens ago, like it sucked to like get through a game and be like, oh wait, now I'm on the path for this ending, and it is what it is. But if it's just simple things with YouTube, I think that nowadays it's like you could just watch different endings. Until Dawn's a perfect example. Like you could play through that game one way and you want to know, what if I made this choice differently? You don't need to play it again. You can just go watch it,
But some of those are good too that, you can go back and play from a certain point.
Exactly. And I think that it depends on the game. And if you want to play, and New Game Plus is a great way to do that. Like I think the games that intelligently add New Game Plus modes that entice you to play it again in a different way and you get different experience. To me, it's when it's just the ending that changes, that's the problem. Mm-hmm. Like if they change enough of the game throughout that it really matters and it's not, I'm a good guy or I'm a bad guy, but I'm really doing the exact same thing. That's when I really think that the endings matter. But I always want to know what the canon ending is. I hate it when games are just like, here's all the endings. Like I want to know what the canon ending is and what all just the different fun versions are.
What if there is no canon?
There always is a canon. Always. You have any more, Colin?
No, I think that if it resonates with the people making the game and they think it's important, then that's good. I don't like it for replay value's sake. I think it's stupid. But if there's a reason, if they're trying to say something or tell a story in a way that it is meaningful, and give people some closure in ways that make them feel like their choices mattered, then I think that that's pretty cool. Or just to throw people off and just make them think a little bit about what they're doing in the game. And Spec Ops, which we talked about in the last topic, I think is a great example of that. Fallout New Vegas was another great example of making choices in games where you didn't even know what the fuck you were really doing. And I loved the gray moral ambiguity of that game. But for it to be a check mark on the back of a box to say like, well, we have multiple endings, that's fucking stupid. Games with conclusive endings are also great, where you tell me your story. You know?
Yeah.
There's no shame in that either. Even if you have them make choices and it still funnels back into the same thing, that's fine with me.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd? Then this is the subscription box for you. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/KFgames and enter code KFgames to save $3 on any new subscription. We want to believe. With the revival of the X-Files that we've all been waiting for, there's never been a better time for an invasion. An alien invasion, that is, packed with the thrill of an extraterrestrial encounter. This month's crate features exclusive items from the X-Files, Alien, The Fifth Element, and Space Invaders, including a contest-winning shirt and a terrifyingly cute plush. I keep getting messed up because the wording is slightly different than it normally is for Loot Crate. I enjoy that. Trying to keep me on my toes. So hop into your power loader and grab your flashlight because loot is out there with exclusive items from the X-Files, Alien, and I just did this. No, this is it just says
They
it
did
again.
it again?
The Fifth Element and Space Invaders, plus some classic sci-fi goodies. We can tell you this: the loot is out there.
Is the loot out there, Tim?
Oh, it's out there.
Okay.
It's out there. Remember, you only have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate. And when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. Jack. So go to lootcrate.com/KFgames and enter code KFgames to save $3 on your new subscription today. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank you, Tim, for having us.
Thank you, Kevin, for staying late for this. You're welcome.
Oh, Kevin, don't worry about it. We're happy to give you this job.
Stop taking off your clothes.
Don't do
Stop.
that.
We'll see you guys next week, and I love you.